Hey everybody, it's your Sam and I am here with another video. It's actually another part of my foreshadowing series. And if you haven't been catching my foreshadowing series, I will have the playlist on the end card of this video, and you can always check out the playlist on my channel too. Today, I kind of want to go over trees and weather, how you can use trees and weather in your works for foreshadowing and for symbolism. Since we are talking about trees, I want to remind everyone that if you have a chance, go out and plant a tree, or do something with an app that goes out and plants trees. A popular app that writers like you and I use is often the Forest app, and what it is a timer, and it pretty much is like the timers that we use during sprinting. You can set the timer and you can do your task for as long as the timer runs, and you plant yourself a little tree. Get enough of these trees, you earn coins, and those coins you can use to plant a real life tree. So yeah, go plant a tree. Without further ado, I'm going to step down off of my little soapbox and get into the foreshadowing and symbolism part. Trees in general reflect strength. They also reflect growth. They also depict steadfastness, loyalty, wisdom, because trees live a lot longer than we do, usually. So they go through all the ages and they have that wisdom built up in them. Trees are often seen as graceful as well, and are often a symbol of femininity, and I think that's pretty cool considering that this is filmed the day after International Women's Day. Some common symbols of trees that we all pretty much know is the olive branch, a symbol of peace. And there's also the tree of knowledge. For pretty much every religion has a tree of knowledge somewhere in their lore. Let's go ahead and get into an apple tree. Is very loved because we all love apples, right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apple trees symbolize goodwill, happiness, and bounty, or a bountiful day. Apple trees can be used in foreshadowing or in symbolism in your works because maybe your character is struggling financially and somebody gifts them an apple tree and they plant it, and it's a symbol or a foreshadowing element of how their life is going to change for the better, how they're going to manage to provide for their family or even have success somewhere. It's also a symbol of goodwill, so you can probably have your friends to enemies or enemies to lovers kind of have an apple tree somewhere in the mix, and it can symbolize a change in that relationship where there's going to be goodwill eventually. Cherry trees is the next one, and cherry trees are beloved by a lot, especially Japanese, because the Japanese actually have a festival for cherry trees. When cherry trees go in bloom, they hold a festival, and it is gorgeous. Or a lot of them have picnics under blooming cherry trees. I want to do that one day. But cherry trees symbolize love and romance and good fortune. And also with our Native American lore and our Native American beliefs, they symbolize compassion. So keep that in mind. You can use the cherry tree as a symbol of love blooming if you don't want to use a rose or anything like that, and also of good fortune to come in a foreshadowing element. Oak trees are some of my favorite, and oak trees is a good example of a tree having different subspecies, because right off the top of my head I can name 5 different oaks that grow in the area. There's the white oak, there's the black oak, there is the northern red oak, there's the southern red oak, and there is the pin oak. Oaks are a great symbol of strength. and courage and knowledge, because usually oaks are some of the biggest trees in the forest and some of the oldest too. Oaks are also known as spiritual guardians, and that's why whenever you drive through the country, a lot of these old churches have oaks all around them. Birches are the next, and again, there are so many different species of these trees that you can look it up, and each one has a little bit of a different meaning, and all of them definitely have a different look about them. But birches usually mean new beginnings, and they kind of mean hardiness too, because they take root where no other tree does usually. And to the Native Americans, to our indigenous peoples, it also meant truth. The reason why birch means new beginnings is because they're usually the first to leaf in the spring. So you can use birches in foreshadowing and in symbolism whenever your character is making that transition into their new life. Or perhaps they haven't made that decision yet, but they're kind of sitting under a birch tree, kind of thinking about it, especially in the springtime. And there you go. Maples mean balance, longevity, and generosity. They're also very adaptable too. You can use those as different symbols of that. And in Japan, maples mean grace and great beauty, because if any of you have seen the Japanese maple, you know that when it turns, it is the brightest and most beautiful red leaf that you have ever seen. Maples are very beautiful when they turn into the fall, so keep that in mind whenever you're creating your scenes, especially if it's in this world, or you can create a tree in your world that has the range of fall foliage coloring that maples do. This one right here is a sugar maple, and they turn orange. I mentioned the red maple, or a species of red maple. And there's also maples that turn yellow as well. And usually they are very brightly colored. The orange, the red, and the yellow too. Next is the dogwood. And dogwoods hold a special place in my heart because I grew up with about, 6 of them. Dogwoods mean loyalty, safety, kindness, and determination. They also can mean rebirth and resurrection. As you can see, trees have very different meanings, but they all kind of tie in together. And I'm going to pop up a couple of images up here of different trees, and you can kind of see how these pictures make you feel, and you can take that and put it into your writing. So if there is a tree and some shadow or some fog, it makes you feel a little bit ominous, because you feel that old, overbearing, ageless tree just kind of judging you in the dark, like, what are you doing out here of a night? Or it can be more spiritual for you, as in the tree is helping you along your spiritual journey, guiding you through the darkness and the fog so that you can find your way. Another one is the huge sprawling branches and the huge trunk, and that can probably help you feel growth and hope and a protectiveness or a steadfastness. Sometimes sitting under these trees helps you just gain your grounding again. Other times it can be kind of insidious. It can be the tree branches are reaching towards you and dragging you down where you don't want to go. Another thing is trees and sunrise can bring a sense of hope, or they can be playful because the sun is dancing in between them. Or it can be something a little dangerous. The trees are blocking you from the sunlight that you sorely need. During sunset, trees during sunset are usually very beautiful, lots of oranges and purples. Again, the sun is kind of dancing between the branches and the trunks. And it can be keeping the last remnants of sunlight away from you before darkness descends. and it can mean a loss of hope. That's just some examples there that you can use. And again, whenever you're writing in a scene or something and you're building the setting, kind of pay attention to what trees are around if you're writing in a forest or a yard or something like that, and whether you want the trees to feel welcoming or territorial or evil or good, and create the lighting or the effects around it. Watch some movies that are set in woods or in the country, and you can kind of feel how the director wanted to portray and lead into the scenes and make you feel. Next, I want to touch a little bit on weather, because weather is often tied in with trees because trees are uprooted by tornadoes or hurricanes or something, and there's a feeling of loss. The wind creaking through the branches. Some examples. Weather and trees are kind of tied together, but kind of wanted to tie these two in the same video. Otherwise, there's going to be about 20 videos on foreshadowing and symbolism that I do, and I wanted it to only be like 6. Fluffy clouds, especially if they're white, seen in a bright blue sky, often mean lightness and introspection. On the contrast, gray clouds rolling in on a bright blue sky can mean sadness or the coming of negative emotions or the coming of danger. Floods can mean a purification of the area or of the person. It washes away all the grit, but at the same time it is destruction, and it can also kind of symbolize an unconsciousness because you're drowning in despair or some feeling that is overtaking you. Fog, we kind of touched a little bit on this earlier, is a distortion. It's like a veil between reality and illusion. You don't know what's quite real or if you're imagining things coming in the fog. It's a uncertainty, and you can do a lot with these weather conditions, especially fog. Fog is often very mysterious or used in a lot of horror movies and games too. Hurricanes is chaos and destruction, but it's also wisdom because the eye of the hurricane sees all. Lightning is often a sign from the god or gods. It's also a symbolism of wrath or punishment. So say a family has a large oak tree, and an oak tree has always been like on their family crest or something like that. If lightning hits that tree and splits it, then the family is going to be split, or there's going to be some kind of dishonorable conduct and half of the family is going to die or something like that. Night is fear or death, or it's a requirement or test of faith. Rain can mean depression or a cleansing. Rain can also be really cozy too. A lot of characters curl up in a bay window and read a book to watch the rain. Rainbows mean regeneration and hope, and they also mean equality. Sky is, if it's clear, it's like a freedom to chase your dreams or to have inspiration or to go for your goals. Limitless possibilities. Storms mean chaos, trauma, a change like a transition in one's life, or it can mean a temporary setback or a challenge to the path towards their goal. A sunrise is an awakening and a renewal, whereas a sunset is an end or coming close to death. It can also mean a calmness as well. A tsunami is fear, death, destruction. It's also kind of anticipation as well, because you kind of know one's going to come eventually. And winds have always been depicted as a change. So I hope this helps you out just a little bit, and some more examples of weather and trees and how you can use them to foreshadow and to symbolize certain things in your works. There's a lot more that I can go over, but I'm trying to keep it short and sweet and to give you ideas of where you need to point your research. So say you're writing a lot of nightfall scenes, You can know that nightfall is mostly associated with fear or death, or like a requirement of faith. The character has to work through their own self-loathing or their own faith that they have in whatever religion that they are a part of in order to get through the scary night and into the new day. Also, you can have nightfall in the middle of a forest and there's a fog rolling in off the river, and it just distorts everything around the character, and they grow even more uncertain and their faith is even more tested, and they start to see things where a tree once stood. Maybe they see a person or something. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell if you want to be notified of when I upload videos. I upload videos every Sunday and Thursday. I also do live streams every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to hit that like button because it makes me feel all good and warm inside. And leave a comment too. What is your favorite tree, or what is a tree that you grew up with? Did you have a favorite tree that you climbed as a child? Or maybe a favorite tree that you like to sit under and write? Let me know. Thank you for watching as always. Be kind to one another. Stay safe. Keep writing and keep being creative. And I will see you next time.